Well, it was an inauguration speech heard around and hailed around the world. I know it was 2 weeks ago, but go back to it in your mind. One line in particular stood out. I think it's worth listening to. Here it is.
We are a nation of Christians and Muslims, Jews and Hindus, and non-believers.
Why is that line standing out? Dr. Zuhdi Jasser is here. He is the president of American Islamic Reform for Democracy. Zuhdi, how are you, sir? Long time no see.
Great, Glenn. Congratulations on the great program.
Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to have you and introduce you here to the Fox audience. We have been talking about Islamic issues for a while. You are a Muslim. People always say, you know, where are the good Muslims? Where are the people standing up and speaking out? Dr. Zuhdi Jasser is one of those guys. This line stuck out to you. Why?
Well, because I think it's interesting that he's trying to make some overtures and as Fuad Ajami said in the Wall Street Journal, sort of be the unbush. But the issue is, it stood out to me because he thinks it almost feeds into the line of those that want to divide the world by faith, such as Al-Qaeda. I mean, they want to say there's a Muslim world and a non-Muslim world, and I believe I, as a Muslim in the West, am not part of the Muslim world, but I'm a Muslim.
Okay.
So he really needs to be careful.
But go back. What was it specifically that he said? Because I contend a lot of Americans miss this, and it was shocking in the fact that it had never been said before this way. What was it that stood out to you?
Well, I think what stood out to me was he said we are going to, bring back to the 20, 30 years ago when we were at a time of mutuality and security now and respect. Now, wait a minute. So is he saying that the 1979 Iran and then the ascendancy of Saddam Hussein, that those Muslims, I mean, which Muslims is he speaking to? The dissidents that are fighting for freedom and have been oppressed by those rulers? Or is he actually speaking to the rulers that are the autocrats, and many of whom are thugs, that are destroying the Muslim world? So I'm very concerned about who he's actually speaking to.
You are your family came over from the Islamic world, and you moved over here, and you escaped, and you're seeing it now, the people that want to rebuild it all around the world, what you and your family escaped from. You want to explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's very important that we're seeing a change from the language of liberty and freedom. I mean, my parents came to America and taught me that I could practice my faith more freely in the West than in America than I could anywhere in the so-called Muslim world. So if he's going to invoke the term Muslim world, I think he's going to, again, get us back to the credibility problem we had in the 70s and 80s, where the dissidents felt abandoned by America because we were actually helping Saddam against Iran. We had issues with the monarchy of Saudi Arabia, which we still do because of oil prices, etc. And we're viewed in many ways as abandoning those that want to change their governments and want reform. I mean, talk to the women's rights movements in Saudi Arabia and ask them what they feel about American support. And if he's actually going to bring change, he's actually doing it in a very ahistoric, I think, in a very naive and dangerous way.
Well, here's the problem. I mean, quite honestly, Zuhdi, when people said this after 9/11, they said, well, I can understand. I thought to myself, you got to be kidding me. I mean, America has done good things. We're a good nation, et cetera, et cetera. But now, the further we get away from it, I kind of understand, because it doesn't seem to me that we actually stand for anything. Both Republicans and Democratic administrations have taken us down this road to where, look, if we stand for liberty, then why are we in bed with dictators? Why are we in bed with people who are oppressing? I mean, there's a reason, to me at least, there's a reason why we are most loved in the Middle East by the Iranian people. Probably most hated by the Iranian government, but the Iranian people like Americans, and it's because we haven't dealt with their thug dictators like we do in Saudi Arabia and we do in Egypt, right or wrong.
Exactly, and we have to be able to have a president that can speak, and certainly he's far more articulate, but the problem is what is he saying exactly? If he's going to use the language of freedom and liberty, he can't go on Al-Arabiya, a Saudi-owned television, and reach out to King Abdullah and not talk about the rights of the oppressed in Saudi Arabia.
Iran is saying that this is a sign of weakness, what he has done now. He's assigning this speech and everything that he said in that interview as a sign of weakness. That is a fundamental misunderstanding of the Middle East. Being compassionate, reaching out, the dictators over there interpret that not as a kind gesture, but as weakness.
And I think he's going to learn, I believe, and this is what I heard from my family and others in the Middle East, is that the only way you can deal, just as Reagan spoke about peace through strength, you cannot deal with autocrats by olive branches and sort of this apologetic, we are not your enemy. I mean, I'm sorry, as a former naval officer, our sons and daughters that died to liberate the Iraqi people from the thuggishness of Saddam Hussein, we have nothing to apologize for. We should be clear that we are going to continue to stand for liberty, and I'm sorry, he's actually going to weaken our stance, and the autocrats are going to take advantage of that and keep pushing and pushing until they get pushed back.
People are always coming up and asking me,